Joey. But I think one of them is Samantha. I call her Samantha. I like her full name, but she goes by Sam. All right. So we're recording, so I'll tighten up here. But thanks you all for joining. I think we might have some people hop in a little bit later, but we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for April for hosting us today. A lot of fun. We had a morning session, got to speak to some educators at 7:30 in the morning. So that was a good time. And here we are in the afternoon. We partnered with Region 9 in April before in this Tech Bit mini series to share back in the spring kind of a full-fledged of Disney Codeillusion, which is Life is Tech's flagship program. But today we're kind of focused on that K-12 pathway. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So we've worked with, a number of different states around something that we've found, or at least I've found with my coworkers, is that speaking to specifically New Mexico, being in a little bit of the earlier stages with computer science and standard rollout, things like that. There's a lot of, we're just dipping our toes in, really understanding how computer science curriculum looks in, different grade bands. And so that's kind of what we'll hop in today. Before we do get started though, we have a small enough group here. So maybe we can just do introductions just verbally. I had this, cute things using with our Zoom emojis. But
I am team coffee.
I am drinking a hojicha latte. So technically a tea, but that's a PM, Stella. What is everyone else? You can throw it on there. April's her coffee. Yes, we know that Sam does like her tea. Oh, Sierra, tea. I mean, we all need to stay caffeinated one way or another. Would love to hear from Sierra, and I'm guessing Philip as well, but Philip already introduced himself a little, so can piece that together. But maybe you already taught STEM before, given your position, Philip?
Yeah, I'm kind of a Renaissance man. I know that's like not a thing maybe anymore, but yeah, I've taught social studies, I've taught 4th and 5th grade, I've taught ELA language arts, I taught ESL language arts, and computer science.
There you go. Yeah,
I'd call it a Renaissance man.
Yeah, 100%. But that's what we also hear a lot of our computer science teachers, also our tech teachers. They're just like kind of thrown into it. It's one of the many things that they do, right? They also coach, you do anything and everything kind of as a teacher, whatever is beneficial for the kids. And so Sierra would love to have your feedback here. If you've taught computer science before, if you haven't.
Hi, I'm Sierra. I actually work for a tribe in northern New Mexico, Picaris Pueblo. I'm the education youth advisor for our tribe. I also coach, but right now our center, we're trying to get an after school program. So we're trying to get different programs involved and kind of entice kids. So seeing Disney definitely would draw kids in, especially since they're interested in computer science.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Thank you, Sierra. That's really good information and feedback, because we do have a smaller group here. Joanne and Sam also work with Life is Tech, so we have a large support team out here. But in case you guys want to introduce yourselves, more than welcome.
Hi, I'm Joanne, and I do marketing at Life is Tech. And I've worked in ed tech industry previously with Apex Learning, which is now part of Edmentum. So looking forward to this.
Thanks, Joanne. So briefly, we'll introduce myself. Hi, I'm Stella, joined here by my colleague Jeff.
Hello.
Together lead our New Mexico team for Life is Tech. And so previously, I was actually in the classroom as a preschool teacher. Jeff has a very cool background as well. I'll let him share.
I graduated with a computer science degree from UCI, and I've also led a couple of programs for some like school districts and their coding competitions.
Perfect. And we're together, Life is Tech. We have partnered with Disney to create Disney Codeillusion, which is our flagship program. You'll see some, inklings of our curriculum as we chat through today's slideshow, but we can also for sure deep dive into the program as well if that's what you guys are kind of here to see. Definitely want to make this hour as informative and resourceful for you as possible. And since we do have a more intimate group, just catering it towards you all, I'm down for, we don't have to stick to the script. But taking a step back, Life is Tech is actually was founded in Japan over 10 years ago. A computer science ed tech company providing curriculum there, one of the #1 providers, came to the States about 3 years ago with this partnership with Disney. Japan has their own partnership with Japan Disney. So a lot of success there and just really replicating that and wanting it to bring it to a larger audience. But we do have more course offerings that are outside of Disney Codeillusion, which we'll kind of showcase as well today. Something that is a little bit particular about our company, a little special, if you will, is that we are created by industry leaders. So some of these programmers created Kingdom Hearts, Sonic the Hedgehog. So one aspect to that is that we want to make sure that our curriculum is not just meeting, state standards, but doing more than that, making sure that we're giving the skills for these students to excel in the real world environment, to make sure that we are creating those future industry leaders. Also, because, they are programming these games, there's a huge gamification engagement aspect to it. That's why we partnered with Disney to create that entertainment for the kids. Like Sierra said, just getting them kind of hooked on in the first beginning, gets them interested in computer science when maybe previously it never crossed their mind to explore coding, to explore those more tech fields or routes. I think this is why we're all here, so won't stay too long on this, but I felt like this graph is very impactful in the sense that, hey, technology has grown in the past decade rapidly. Alongside that, the industry, alongside that, our student demand or even parental demand of what they want, what kind of curriculum and education they want to see their kids have. But also looking at this and giving ourselves grace on the educator side, understanding that none of us grew up with computer science education, especially from that elementary school stage. Some of us don't even know what that looks like. I didn't before I came onto this space. So really kind of parsing that out. Alongside that, you have, these standards, which are very important. So we have that alignment, we have that equity piece so that every child gets access to computer science curriculum. But New Mexico, kind of just starting off, have goals to reach certain goals by 2023, 2026. We're not quite there yet. These are just some statistics that I pulled. Something that I did want to point out is just this middle piece, right? Seeing from that 2020 AP Computer Science, that difference between the woman, the gender split, as well as minority groups. And something that will help just naturally even this out will be exposure from an early age, just showing them that it is fun, that it is engaging, that it is relevant to their lives. Any questions here? So far, perfect. So today what we have planned is just to go through the different grade bands that are aligned with New Mexico's CS standards, and kind of just speak to about the different computer science curriculum that we see is applicable to those specific age groups. So starting off with grades K through 2. From here, a lot of it is just computational thinking. Philip, you mentioned this earlier on, but that is all you really need, that exposure. And a lot of this is already in place. A lot of this is natural in human nature, but it's just really putting that terminology, putting that language onto it. For example, I used to be a preschool teacher. Every morning, the kids had their morning routine. They come in, they hang their backpack on their hook, they unpack their backpack, put their lunch where that needs to go, et cetera, et cetera. There's a specific order that goes along with it. And so even just outlining that with the students themselves, writing it out in a list with number order, or even doing one of those like picture sequences, right? You have 5 different pictures, which order goes where? Brushing your teeth, things that can, life skills even. Conditional statements, if then, right? We're all very familiar with this, and this can be very cross-curricular as well. PE time, red light, green light, if it is red, then I stop. If it is green, then I can run. Things that are already in place, but again, just putting that language on top of it. There's a lot of text on here. We have a really great blog, shameless plug here, but I will also send out these slides to you all at the end of today's presentation, so you can have that on hand for your reference. Something else that's a hot topic, and rightfully so, when we talk about computer science is screen time. And just recognizing that our kids are looking at a lot of screens every day, making sure that we have activities in place that get them off their screens, get them collaborating. And so going back to these computational thinking, right? Logic and patterns, taking a game of Uno and really just even verbalizing what you're doing, because Sarah next to me put down a green card, I have to put down a green card. Just making sure that logic is outlined and put into context. It can also be things like mazes. Here at Life is Tech, we understand that every student is different, has their own learning capacities and styles. Some people are more visual learners, some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic. Can we make a maze in real life around the classroom together? What are blockers? If you hit a red chair, then you have to jump or step over it, make it fire safe as well. Something else that's fun in teamwork, that collaboration aspect. There is a portion of computer science where inevitably it does kind of have to be individual, right? You're kind of typing on your own device or whatnot, but you can also make it very collaborative with these offline activities. Programmers and robots is basically Simon Says, but one person is a robot and the rest of the students have to program the robot to do what they want it to do. So that's a lot of fun. Moving on to grades 3 to 5, this is where we really believe and strongly encourage students to get into text-based coding. We see a lot of block-based coding here, and that's a great resource, a great place to start off, but we really believe that once students are able to spell, once students are able to type, you should move them on to text-based coding. So Disney Codeillusion, it is beginner friendly. We have grades 2 onwards within the program, even some younger students who are a bit more advanced or gifted or whatnot. But it is still text-based coding. And we really believe that to be the most optimal way to learn for a couple of reasons. And this is, statistically and research proven as well. One is the language acquisition aspect to it, right? Computer science is technically a foreign language. I think Georgia, I do know, also considers it as a foreign language component. Like if you don't have to take any other foreign language. It meets that requirement there. That's the word I'm looking for. But there is kind of truth to that, it is its own language. And there's also a lot of cross-curricular benefits to it. Spelling, grammar, how important punctuation is, right? Also learning strategies. Well, the next slide kind of outlines this, but really developing those employability skills, if you will. So attention to detail, problem solving, trial and error, all that good stuff is much more prevalent in text-based coding. And lastly, you do have that uncapped growth. So, with block-based or with, other programs, you finish the lesson, you finish the code and you're done, hands off, gold star. With that trial and error of text-based coding, you can really play around with your code. You can continue to remind yourself, hey, what does this number mean? What happens if I, change this number to 100? If I take it down to 0, does it move it around the screen? Does it make the circle bigger or smaller? So there's a lot of play involved in that. Let's see. Oh, this is a fun activity. And maybe just make your minds think a little bit. We'll give a free trial to Disney Codeillusion to anyone who gets it right. So this is just, hey, what's wrong with this code? Multiple choice, A, B, C, D. If you guys want to throw it in the chat or even take yourselves off mute and just say it out there. Philip's going hard. Yeah. It's like I taught this before.
Hold on, I gotta move my block.
We got the
so I can see
squids
that.
going.
I gotta move everything around.
We'll wait for you. We have time.
It's a really fun debugging activity. Did you know that the word debugging comes from actually removing a bug from a computer, like a moth? That was the first time that term actually got coined.
I didn't know that, but the fact that you just said that reminded me that in our earlier presentation at 7:30 or 6.
Oh, your giant spider, is it still there?
A giant spider, and I totally forgot about it after the presentation, and I'm like, where did that go in my room?
We can not think about that.
Push that back in my mind.
And I think it was actually one of the earliest female computer programmers. It was Ada Lovelace.
Absolutely.
Oh, look at you guys.
I only know it's Ada Lovelace because I'm also like a crypto nerd. So it's
Oh, very nice.
the ADAs were named after Ada
Mhm.
Lovelace.
I was about to say there's a bunch of things named after her now. Very nice.
I'm
All right.
thinking C. Wow.
See?
Ooh, bold choice, bold choice.
Final guess. It's okay.
You can also put your answers in the
Oh,
chat.
it was A. No
Ah.
curly bracket. Oh, darn it.
So you see here at the end of draw, you have that one. It should also be here and set up. No harm, no foul. We learn by trying, right? That's very much a component, and things are memorable. That's also a psychological study. Things are more memorable when you quote unquote fail. Last thing for grades 3 through 5 that I just wanted to touch on are just what this coding structure that we've seen at different schools. So we have the homeroom system, we have the specials rotation, we have after school programs. We'll get into that as well. But specifically for K through 5, because you have more homeroom teachers, there are pros and cons to both. There are things to consider with just purely devices and materials and exposure. Are you going to have that full staff participation at your school? If not, maybe it's better to do a specials rotation. We don't want one teacher who's, maybe like, oh, computer science, I don't know how to do this, even though they have a curriculum that is a very easy lift, only has to facilitate. Maybe they're just not used to it, or you have one teacher that's very gung-ho. We want that equity piece, again, going back to all students getting the ability to, or the access to computer science education. I will say we do have a virtual assistant within our program. Her name is Mimir. She is this magical creature that will take you through the program, instructions, hints, encouragement. This really allows the teacher to become a facilitator. They do not have to have any coding experience at all. They do not have to, we encourage them to play through the lesson before, and we have lesson resources available for them, but that's the extent to it. We very much understand the again, that supply and demand of, and even the teacher retention aspect that's happening right now. We do not want to overwhelm our teachers. Most of our team are have been teachers of some kind before in the past and know how many hats you wear, and want to make sure that this is not something that is added onto your plate, rather something to alleviate. And so even in the homeroom structure, what we've seen is, hey, because our program is self-propelled, it is project-based learning as our pedagogy. So the students can actually play within the program independently with the help of our friendly virtual assistant, Mimir. And so anytime you have a fast finisher, something like that, hey, grab your Chromebook, spend some time in Disney Codeillusion. This is actually like very much a reward for them. They get to be playing something fun, something engaging. The whole premise of Disney Codeillusion is to recreate Disney original movie scenes and be able to manipulate them yourself. So it's very engaging, even for me, or even having also intentional time blocks, making sure that's not just the fast finishers that get to play within Disney Codeillusion. It's also, hey, our whole class did a really great job behavior-wise this week. Let's spend some time Friday, 1 hour or 30 minutes in the program. There's also a large retention aspect to the program, so you don't have to do the curriculum every single day. It's okay if it's once a week, after school program. It's okay if it's a couple times a week. It's okay if you just do like a computer science focus or a month focus. And then you have other aspects of STEM at other times. So we do work with Sierra Vista Elementary out in Las Vegas City. They actually started our program this year. Las Vegas City was one of our districts that really had the vision of creating a pathway. So grades 4 all the way through 12. So they have some element of Disney Codeillusion at grades 4, or at the elementary schools rather, at the middle schools and at the high schools. Obviously different curriculums, paced differently, adding on supplementary projects, things like that. But specifically for Sierra Vista, and I think this is also a common theme with this grade level. A lot of times it's the first time they're doing text-based coding. And so it is a little bit challenging at first. We also saw this when Jeff and I worked with Santa Fe over the summer. They did a STEM program. 5 minutes in, we were on the call just being support or even cheerleaders. But 5 minutes in, their facilitator, who had never seen the program before, but was just facilitating for the summer week, was like, hey, how's it going? The students go hard, like they haven't seen anything pop up on their screen yet. And then what was it, Jeff? Like 2 minutes later?
Yeah, it was a very short amount of time.
Yeah, but probably eternity for this child. But she was just like, I got it, like something happened. And so computer science inherently is that it's a lot of struggle. And then when it works, it's just so satisfying and gratifying, gives them a lot of confidence and agency as well. Is there anything that you wanted to add on to this, Jeff?
Oh yeah, totally. I actually work in customer success for our customers. And what that means is for any implementation, we have a team dedicated to making sure that that goes smoothly. So I work with Lisa specifically, and I'm able to sort of walk her through these struggles. And what's been great is just talking with her about how they do struggle with basic following directions, right? That can be stressful, whether that be behavioral or that be just like not getting the curriculum. And what has been really exciting is that for all of the classes that she's overseeing about 11 on a rotation basis. They're experiencing sort of growth in all sort of areas where their ability to focus, the resilience that they're building through learning how to code is translating to other classes. They're going to try a little harder with their math problems that they don't get. They're going to think a little bit more creatively for those word problems that weren't initially clicking. And so almost on like a neural level, they're unlocking new connections. And I think code personally is just a great medium for unlocking that sort of potential. And that really is what we stand for here at Life is Tech. We try to maximize each learner's potential, whether they be kinesthetic or like strong readers. We even offer some sort of assistance and accessibility by way of like narration for students that may struggle with learning. In 6th through 8th, actually, we're gonna see here. We're going back to Mimir. So Mimir, she's a magical creature, not a cat. I say that because she specifically says, I'm not a cat, even though everyone likes to call her a cat. She's the virtual mentor. She's going to narrate and speak out loud to those students, and even in Spanish coming soon as well. So especially for those communities who are multilingual or like speak a different language, this is going to be great for strengthening their English or just transitioning to Spanish for code as well.
Thanks, Jeff.
No problem. Okay, 6th through 8th. On the next slide, we're going to see a little bit of what we call our scaffolded approach here. To speak to our curriculum, here you see media art. If you recall, in an earlier slide, you might have seen media art, web design, and game development. Those are 3 different sort of focus areas that we highlight in our curriculum. And the reason why I want to touch on that is because if you've worked with other curriculum or seen it before, it often seems a bit piecemeal, right? Like you have to get the media art section or just the web design. What we do here is very integrated. And so the way that they learn code is based off of the fundamentals, the variables, the functions, the process itself. So we're really equipping them with skills that are going to translate beyond just the languages that they're learning or the focuses areas. We want to inspire them to learn how to code and then have the sort of confidence to apply that in a real world situation. The way that we do this is we start with very manageable chunks, all right? Here in the sort of diagram, we're going to start on the left and the bottom, circle magic. These are the first few lessons that the students learn. And the way that it's sort of structured is through gem lessons and book lessons. The gems build up on these small topics that give them those small wins. It builds up the momentum that they need to tackle these harder topics. And to give you a more concrete example, the first 3 lessons are how to draw a circle, how to color a circle, and then how to move a circle based off of the position of your cursor. That already sounds kind of exciting, and it really is. But when they get to see it put together in a sort of summative assessment, that's our book lessons, they get to see that they've created a Mickey icon, which is essentially just 3 circles. Those are really important connections that we want students to be making, and a really underrated aspect of curriculum that sometimes gets lost in other platforms. They might show you how to sort a list or do one specific thing, but after that, what are you going to do with that? Here, it's not just circles, it's not just colors. We're showing you that you can apply this to what you want it to be. If it's a Mickey icon, a snowman, a happy face, like they're all circles, they're all colors, and we want to empower our students to feel like they can do that. And we do that by building upon that knowledge consistently. Even across chapters, we have multiple chapters. You'll see that the lessons that were sort of covered in the beginning are called upon later on, just in a more complex fashion. And if you've coded before, you might have started to see how a lot of it is just building upon itself. So recognizing how they fit together is going to be the greatest tool to them. You can actually see a lot of this excitement here at Livingston Junior High, where they take on what we call our magic quests, or our sort of premium projects, right? They take what they've learned in Disney Codeillusion lessons, and they now get to apply it to more unique sort of projects and video games. Here in the video, which we'll play shortly, you can see that 2 students are presenting their project to the rest of the class. And this is a great demonstration of just soft skills, confidence, and just overall comfort with the curriculum. A lot of code can be intimidating and scary, but as we see here, the vibe is honestly pretty happy. And I love just seeing them get excited about showing off what they made. There's a lot of pride involved. Are we able to get? There you go. And so I'm not sure if you catch it. The audio is a little hard, but there they were actually pointing out, one of the students called out a bit of an error, right? Or a technicality. And to me, that reveals a bunch of things, right? One, they're not only engaged enough to complete an assignment, but to call out some discrepancies in another team's assignment. They are excited enough and know what's going on with the code that they're not hung up on whether or not the circle's perfect or the squares are perfect. They're more like, why can't yours move faster? Or why are there not enough gems? And in response, they're able to explain that back to each other in their own sort of language. And so that's been really great. We can see how much that they've gained from the Disney Codeillusion curriculum in their confidence. And this is especially important for this specific case, right? The reason why we highlight these studies from other customers and other teachers is because not just hearing it from us or statistics, it's great to hear how in the field, they are using Disney Codeillusion and there are very real results. Livingston is a bit of a harder sort of area where students are subject to a lot of circumstances outside of their own control. And I'm sure as teachers, you might be able to resonate with just empathizing for those situations. It's a really tough spot to be in. And what Celia, the facilitator at this site, really wanted to do and achieve, right, was to empower her students to see that there is a career outside of their hometown, that they are not limited by those circumstances that they live in. And by learning how to code, they will unlock that sort of potential for them. And it's been great. We've been able to see how they're inspired and excited. They've had other curriculum, yes, but nothing like Disney Codeillusion, where they're actually taking it with them outside of the grade that they graduate to the next school that they graduate to. They're like, I want to do something with this. I've made a video game before. I can do it again. I can make it a career. And that's a very exciting place to be. As we sort of get into the later grades, 9 through 10, right? We're getting upper class or lower classmen of high school. Here you can see a little bit more of those programming projects. We call them Magic Quests. And I really want to highlight here, you can see the Disney Codeillusion Cafe, as well as some other interfaces. We want them to know that the code that they're learning is portable, right? It's very real world. If you were to take, say, block-based coding, that gets you so far. But again, that's a bit of a cap at a certain point. You're not going to be able to use block-based coding to build the things that are going to go in your portfolio necessarily. And so by learning real languages like JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and using libraries like processing, they're going to have the tools at their disposal to build out their portfolio with their own website, whether they want it to make it a cafe or if they want to highlight something else they're passionate about, right? We highlighted our virtual mentor Mimir, that not a cat magical creature. One of our schools actually, it's always great to work with them because they report back to us in terms of like how it's going. Their students, an entire class of like 30 or so, they made a website on their own just as a fan page for Mimir. And it's been really cute because they're taking everything they know, however little or however much, and applying it to their passions here in a unique way. They gave Mimir a hat. They posted many pictures of her, gave text descriptions with different headers and things like that. And they collaborated on that as well. And so just the way that we can use code in the classroom to generate collaboration, to inspire students to pursue their passions, it really does bring a smile to the face of the teachers who get to be a part of this. And beyond just the programming projects, we can also offer computer science essentials. This is another aspect of our curriculums other than Disney Codeillusion. And here we familiarize them with these terms and vocabulary that are commonly used in the tech world, right? The world is changing and evolving. And as much as it may be difficult to catch up at this point, we have an opportunity to equip them early with some of these words to familiarize them with things like network, Wi-Fi, logic gate. Now, logic gates get a little complicated, but really understanding the connections between their devices and what they're using, that's what we're getting at, right? We don't want sort of students that are brought up ill-prepared for the workforce or ill-prepared for the world that they're about to be a very big contributor for. And so by equipping them with this knowledge that you're using a device that's part of a network of devices, you're part of the world of devices that are connected through the internet, and that these machines operate in a way that you really can understand as long as it's explained well. This is where it's explained well. And we even have another virtual mentor. Her name's Daisy, and she is a cat. The next one is the professor, and he'll deliver sort of quizzes, right? And so we've seen the programming projects, project-based learning. We've seen more of like the lecture style and slides-based. So we're really appealing to as many types of students as possible. And we even have built-in quizzes where they get the chance to sort of generate feedback on whether or not they're retaining the knowledge that they just learned. It's one thing to memorize, and it's another thing to be able to answer these questions about what they just covered. And what's neat about this is we don't just put it at the end of an entire chapter, right? We put them right in the middle. That way it's fresh on the mind. They're prepared for this. And it's all still in the context of a game, which is, again, the most, what I believe is the best way to sort of create an engaging environment where your students don't even realize they're learning this much, but they are. As we get into the next slide, we have Rio Rancho High School, and we've since expanded to the rest of our sort of public schools and things like that. But what's great about this one, and I really want to highlight, especially for Sierra, you mentioned you're looking to start a sort of club implementation, right? Is the flexibility of Disney Codeillusion. It doesn't necessarily need to just be a dedicated curriculum, but yeah, anyone can facilitate Disney Codeillusion, whether you're really into code, whether you have the knowledge. We have supplemental materials for our teachers, and it can fit whatever sort of structure you think is best, right? Are you going for exposure and familiarity? All right. Are you going for like meeting standards and making sure that they're prepared for, say, like an AP course? That too. We really want to work with you to see what your success looks like and be able to work in that capacity. And because it's self-paced, guided, and just automatically validated within its own interface, it takes a lot off the facilitator's plate and allows them to do the really hard job, which is sort of inspiring them and being there for those moments where you can really enhance that aha moment to carry them beyond just that lesson, right? Those opportunities are what we want to make more of. And we felt that by creating a program that does most of the heavy lifting for you, you really have more opportunity to be there for your students, and for more students at that, understanding how teachers are now being sort of called upon to serve so many. So that's essentially how Rio Rancho's been doing it at their school, especially at the high school level. They're using it as an after-school club, and the students are just running away with it. They love the fact that they can play it when they can and not play it when they don't have to. And when they return, their progress is still there. It's like a saved game file. So it's very intuitive for them. They come back to it, and it really enhances the rest of their experience, whether it's their robotics class that they're highlighting, or just taking a break from the nitty gritty of the robotics class to make something beautiful in terms of like media art or graphic design. We're able to serve all those types of learners as well. As you get into the upperclassmen, we really want to highlight how they are starting to think about their career pathways, whether it's them or their parents or their teachers. It's on top of mind, and it's something that they've got to really figure out. But what's nice about Disney Codeillusion is by introducing them to code early. You've heard about our sort of full rollout, right? Where you can go elementary school to middle school to high school. By the time they reach this point, having played through Disney Codeillusion, they're going to be pretty comfortable with whether or not they're going to want to enter a technical sort of field. Being someone who graduated as a computer scientist myself, I think it is invaluable to prepare students and give them opportunities earlier rather than later. Everyone who did well in my class, I almost mean like everyone, they had earlier exposure. That was it. And so by giving them opportunities, say at like grades K through 12, 4 through 12, 6 through 12, things like that, we have the curriculum available to prepare them for these careers in a way that makes that process and that transitional time a lot less stressful. They'll know how they can apply this sort of like thinking that they've developed through Disney Codeillusion, and whether it be a technical field or not, they'll be ready.
Yeah. Just hopping on to that, I think we work with a lot of educators who have a hard time just sticking to one curriculum. They're having to piecemeal different curriculum here and there to really give their students what they believe is their best computer science curriculum or education. I've also talked to teachers who had a wonderful curriculum for a year, but then once that year is over, that curriculum was done. There was nowhere to grow. And so something that is, beautiful about Life is Tech being around for 10 plus years is that we have a slew of different programs for the students to grow into. So the vision is really, hey, start at Disney Codeillusion. As a foreign language, we all started at the first step at, Spanish 1 per se, moving on to advanced, then you're getting to language specific, Python, really hot right now. You also have those computer science essentials to really supplement as well, starting grade 6 and up. The idea here is we have a curriculum pathway where, and of course it's going to work up to that. We're only going to reach that vision until 5 and even 10 years if we're starting from nothing and starting at the elementary school level as well. All this is not to overwhelm you though. Like, Jeff mentioned with Rio Rancho, you can start at what makes sense for you in terms of facilitators, in terms of what your students, in terms of your class schedule. Like he mentioned, they started at the high school. They actually are using the program within the middle school right now. And so it's just adding on slowly, whatever you can do, starting with a couple chapters. Our program is actually very it's very customizable in the way that you present it, but also how much curriculum you're using. So, it can start as low as $5 per student for over 15 hours of curriculum at the elementary school level. And so that is a beautiful thing where we'll really work with you. The main thing that I always want to impart on the people that I'm talking to is that it is accessible, right? It doesn't have to be such a heavy lift. It is very cross-curricular. You're already doing a lot of it. It can alleviate things off your plate. It can motivate your students, like Jeff mentioned. This is what we do here from our educators though, lack of curriculum and materials, lack of facilitators, lack of time, lack of budget. And so definitely aware of all of them. Would love to have more deeper conversations with you all individually. If this is something that you want to ask a little bit more about with your current school class students in mind, and can definitely speak to that, price things out for you, quote things out for you, build a curriculum pathway for you, things like that. So that is us for here. Just wanted to show that so you have access to our emails. I can copy them and throw them in the chat as well. Let me stop sharing. Wanted to end a little bit early just to make sure we have time for questions and comments.
No, this was great. Thank you for sharing, Jeff and Stella. And it might be more appropriate to talk another time. I've got something to talk to you guys about, but so I will email you both if maybe we can set up a meeting.
I would love that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
they reach out to you.
Okay, because obviously I don't buy curriculum for districts, right? Because we do lots of local control and different sorts of things. But we are this summer doing a curriculum review, so maybe we can discuss that.
Yeah, that was what I was reaching out to your director about. So timing.
We'll email you both.
Okay, awesome.
And here I will also put my email in the chat as well.
Wonderful. And I know William hopped in late. Hi, William. Thanks for joining.
Hello. Yeah, I was in another meeting with district and state people, so sorry I was late.
No worries.
No worries.
Would love to kind of hear your background, what you came here, what information you came here to find. We'll also send out a recording of the whole thing as well as the presentation itself. So you have,
So, sure. I'm with Santa Fe Public Schools and I'm the program director for our 21st century sites. So we have 13 sites that we run after school. And I really try and push our teachers with technology. So we're coding using blocky language, and I'm trying to get our sites to move into HTML and moving up the language ladder. And we operate kindergarten through 6th grade. But we also have some of our sites that have robotics teams. And so we're looking at different types of technology right now.
awesome. I'd love to continue that conversation with you because I've been working with Justine Chavez. Yeah, and really trying to bring maybe a pilot program, but Jeff and I worked with her for the summer. You guys did like a STEAM, we sent out some swag. So yeah, would love to have that conversation and see what's doable.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Of course. And Sierra, definitely thanks for sharing your email. I'll definitely send over the resources. And then if you'd like to chat further, would love to hear about how we can make your after school club a reality for you. Awesome. Well, I will